Now, Hermes, whom we see here with the dog, is associated primarily with these three great goddesses. And these are, respectively, Aphrodite, who is closest to him here, and then Athene, and then Hera. Now, Aphrodite, as we know, represents love, passionate love. Athene is a virgin goddess and is the patron and guardian of heroes. And Hera is the wife and consort of Zeus. So they represent three conditions of woman, three aspects of woman, and on the man's part, three possible relationships to woman. That to Athene of the heroic life, that to Aphrodite of the erotic life, and that to Hera of the married life. Hermes here is shown with the dog, and the dog is that animal which can follow an invisible path. This means that he guides us along ways not known to man normally, and consequently he's a proper symbol of the same power that Hermes represents, guiding us to the way of immortal life. Now, the background of the story of Troy lies in this very famous beauty contest, where Paris is supposed to have judged between the three goddesses, Aphrodite, Hera, and Athene. We see him here seated in a languid posture, the attitude of a young man of the sort when I was young we used to call a lounge lizard, here judging of the beauty of the three great goddesses. Here is Hermes, who has brought them to him for his judgment. Here is Aphrodite being dressed up prettily by Eros, her son. Here is Hera chastely just fixing her hair. And here is Athene just having a good wash. Now, there was a very great woman, classical scholar of the last century, Jane Harrison. And in a very important and exciting book of hers called the Prolegomena, or Introduction to the Study of Greek Religion, she points out that this is a masculine put-down of the feminine principle, that having a youth of this kind choose between goddesses is something of a real put-down of the feminine principle. And she points out that these three goddesses actually were the great goddesses of the tradition that was important and dominant in this realm of the Aegean world before the coming of the patriarchal Indo-Europeans, or Aryans, the Achaeans and the Dorians. And that in the earlier tradition, Paris would not have been in that languid posture of judging the beauty of these three posturing female deities. And she found, for example, in the ceramic tradition, the tradition outside of the masculine-dominated literary tradition, this representation of the situation. Here is Paris being compelled by Hermes to face these three goddesses who, I would say, no one would say were particularly beautiful in this aspect. And it's as though our friend Paris here were being compelled to face them. And now what happened in the story itself was that each of the goddesses offered him something as a lure and a bribe. Athene offered him her guardianship and guidance in the heroic life. Hera offered him world rule and world control as her husband had it, namely Zeus. Aphrodite promised him Helen of Troy, the most beautiful woman in the world, the wife of Menelaus, the king of Sparta. And he chose Aphrodite, and thus received the promise and assurance that Helen would be his. Now, what this actually was, as Jane Harrison points out, are three destinies that he has to face, three fates, three total destinies. And we can see something of that here in this figure, where we have, this is a votive tablet, the three goddesses standing here, but their names here are the Eumenides, or the Fates. So it's no small thing to choose a fate. It's no small thing to put yourself under the dominance and the control and patronage of a specific deity. And here the deities controlling the lives of young men were the goddesses. So, as Jane Harrison points out, this origin of the War of Troy is represented in the way of a put-down of the goddesses. And what I'm going to try to show is that before Odysseus, this great hero, could return home to Penelope, he had to be reinitiated back to home life by representatives of the powers of those three same goddesses.